Hey everybody, this is Alessandro. Welcome back to my channel. It's been quite a while since we've been doing a tutorial in Maya. So today I want to talk to you about camera, okay? Camera staging overall and mostly about camera length. You see the focal length value here? In general, a lot of animators are really confused about what is the difference between using a very close focal length here or like a further one like this. Especially, the needs change for different shots and based on what you need, right? So today I'm gonna try to make some clarity, all right? So the overall general rule, I'm pretty sure guys, you can test it by yourself. Now I'm in the camera view, is that with a bigger focal length, you will bring the character closer, and with a smaller focal length, you'll try to deform the environment and increase basically the gap between the two characters, right? So we can basically say that increasing it, you're making the environment and the image flatter. With this other one, instead, you create more sense of depth, right? And let's see what are the cases where you should use one rather another one, okay? So let's start with a classic, over the shoulder shot. And imagine that you have two characters talking to each other, right? And as a usually what people do normally, they will put like over the shoulder of one character, and having on the other side of the screen this other character over here, right? It's a very classic shot. It's been done many times. So the things you see here that as you can see now, sometimes you do not always have the luxury to move character around and say, you know what, I want this character to be closer, I need to bring it forward, stuff like that, right? You do not always have this luxury, but maybe composition wise, you don't really care so much about the background that you have behind, and you just want to have a more intimate shot where these two characters are actually closer. So the best way in this case will be just adjusting the focal length and bring it as close as possible. As you can see now, this character is being out of the frame and being pushing this outside a little bit, right? And adjusting the composition. Maybe you can do even more and adjusting rotation, right? And having again over the shoulder, right? Filling. As you can see now, the character didn't move in distance and everything. The only difference is that I adjust the focal length, so now the two characters feel like they're a lot closer to each other. Okay, maybe there is a specific reason why you want this in your storytelling. You're trying to have a more intimate moment, right? That's why you want them to be closer. So this could be one of the reasons why most of the time during dialogue, when you have like character like this, or sometimes you have a close-up, right? You want to have a very close, a very big focal length, right? This is one of the reasons. And another one is that in case I want to have depth of field in my camera, that by the way you can activate it here in the attribute editor. You can create a depth of field. You can see you can have a really strong depth of field. Obviously we can adjust this one. We can adjust the focal length with the focal distance. Okay, but as you can see, the intensity of the depth of field, it's really strong and big. And then you can have this really big contrast because your the FOV of your camera is really strong, is really high. Instead, if I had like a really far away shot, right? If I use this other focal length and I'm putting again the camera closer, the depth of field will be very weak, right? You basically don't have any depth of field here. So it's became basically useless. So this is, for example, another reason why you you want to have a higher FOV, right? Focal length in your camera to have a better depth of field. This is another reason, for example. Now, does this mean that every time you want to have like a close-up shot or want to have two characters in a dialogue shot, you want to have two characters very close? Does it mean all the time you need to have a higher, focal length like this? Absolutely not, and I will tell you the reason. I'm pretty sure you saw in some of animation, especially Japanese, where you have like some other character in frame, right? But you want to have in front of the camera some part of the character. Could be the fist, could be the hands, right? And you want to have the kind of sense of perspective where you want to have the camera really close to the fist like this, and then you see in the background the rest of the character, right? You know what I'm talking about, especially if you're familiar with the Japanese animation and stuff like that, and even sometimes in the animation done in the US, But you see, with a big camera lens like this, which is around 90, or I can exaggerate even more, it's very difficult for me to have this kind of sense of depth, right? If I really want to have the very close composition on the face and then framing the head, as you can see, it's not possible to do both, because basically what I'm doing is like I'm compressing the image. So what I need to do instead is really having a very short focal length. Now, as you can see, I can push it really close to the face. Okay, maybe now it's a bit too exaggerated. Okay, let me reduce it. Maybe do 20. Okay, I can really do it here, because maybe, hey, you know what? I really want to have a close-up of the fist. Maybe you have a character that's giving a punch toward the screen or something, and but you want to see the rest of the character, right? See, now you can kind of have both. Let me scale this down. Right? So as you can see, now you can basically frame everything. We can really emphasize the strong perspective here, but at the same time, when you use this one, you have to be careful to not distort this too much, because as soon as I'm gonna go way too much, you see the background start to look way too weird, and having a strong almost fish eye lens that is a bit too much and it becomes kind of ugly. Okay, so you want to experiment a little bit what you want, but again, this is a reason why you want to use a shorter focal length when you have a close-up. Okay, it's mostly because you want to emphasize a different part of the body from the main character, maybe visualize the rest of it, right? And maybe you could have even another character here in the background. So this is another way of doing it. Another things I want to mention to you guys, in case you didn't know, when you change the focal length, if you want, you can key here, key selectable, the focal length. Okay, so this could be the case. For example, you want change the focal length here. You want to do it really strong here, right? And you want to have it really short. Boom. Right? You want to do this, but at the same time, if you want to have the kind of Hitchcock effect, you can move the camera at the same time while you're going bend on and off, right? So, for example, from here, I'm basically pushing the camera backwards. You see, while I'm doing it, and you see what kind of effect you have. That basically the character stays in the same place, and the background is moving, right? And sometimes it was used to in very old movie, and sometimes still get used today. Kind of want to have this kind of distortion feelings, it's kind of nice. Or you can do the other way around, you can go farther away here, and here you can really go really close, right? And you can experiment with this effect as well. This one actually is not that much. You have to reverse the two things. So here you need to have like a really strong things, and here you want to have a really shorter one. Okay, so see, you have this different effect. So you can explore all these things and have fun as much as you want, and again, and experiment and see what is the best solution. So let's talk about now something else. All right, we talk about static shot and stuff like that, but what about when you have a dynamic shot, right? For example, there is a chasing or a character is running. So there is another two things to keep in mind, right? So as we said, when let me go this direction, right? When we move the camera, if we have a very big, what is it? If you have like a very big focal length, right? Like this, and now we are basically compressing the environment, the feeling of movement will be reduced. Let me give you a practical example, right? I want to move the camera a little bit here, lower the bottom, right? Pushing it up. I increase again the focal length, and now we'll move the camera to the back, right? Straight, push it back, right? And I play from the camera view, and as you can see that the feeling of movement is very little. You have the feeling that the camera is not really traveling a lot. Now let's keep the same translation, all right? But let's adjust the FOV, and let's make it a really short one. Right? I can go in a graph editor, change the focal length here. Okay, there is no key. Okay, so you can see now you have the feeling that the camera is moving a lot faster. Okay, I didn't change the camera movement itself. I didn't change the translation. I kept everything the same. Okay, this value I didn't change it at all. But because now with a shorter camera lens, you're basically squeezing the environment, and you have the illusion that there is a there is bigger distance between those buildings and everything, right? And that's why sometimes when you do a lot of dynamic shot where you have like character running, camera moving all around, and you want to have this kind of sense of speed, it's always good to have a shorter focal length. And this also actually work even though if you, let's say in this position, you don't want to move the camera, but you only want to move the character. Let me give you this idea, this other example, right? Let's assume I want to have this character running from the back of the shots, right, until the very close, right? Let me put it right here. Actually, for the sake of this shot, let me raise the camera, right? Let me raise it like this. The character is going from here to here, right? We can even translate it for the ground right now. Doesn't really matter. Okay, so if I play this, you'll see there is a certain speed, right? Actually, let me even increase it a bit more. I can go really further. Boom. Boom. You have a certain sense of speed, right? You can even improve this a bit more, make it even faster if you want, right? Boom. You have a good sense of contrast, right? Because again, you exaggerate with the camera lens. But what about now if I do exactly the same, I don't change the character animation, and I bring this one to, I don't know, 90, right? Let's go here. Let's frame this character properly, right? Go down like this. Let's reduce this one, right? Maybe I can just framing it like this a little bit more. Okay, we go from here. So now you can see that the sense of depth, you still have it a little bit because the character is moving a lot, but it's not as much as the other one. Okay, and you'll notice that the more I go, the more I exaggerate this one, if I go 100, right, even more, and the more the sense of speed is being reduced, all right? See? It feels like it's not traveling that much anymore compared to the other one. And again, maybe there are specific cases where you are okay with this kind of stuff, but in general, when you have dynamic shot and what you really want to give sense of speed, of contrast, you want to see the camera really moving around, and you want to see the background moving behind really quick. Rule of thumb is always going with the shorter one. Obviously, guys, there is always exception. Okay, this is not necessarily a golden rule that you need to follow all the time. There is always going to be exception, and it's up to you experiment and always to find what works for you at the end, right? But at least I hope with this video you understand at least the reason why you change the camera focal length to a shorter one or a bigger one. What is the reason behind? And so you can apply based on the result that you want to achieve, right? You want to increase the sense of depth and speed, you can go for a short one. For you, it's not really that important, the background movement, and you can really use a larger one, okay? So at the end, it's entirely up to you, okay, when you're doing a layout or directing, right? And I always encourage you guys not just to follow my advice, but take my advice and explore yourself and study and come up with your own solution. Okay, guys, the short tutorial for today. I hope you enjoy. Let me know if you kind of like this tutorial about camera movement and things like that. If you want me to study and explain more about camera, I will be happy to do so. And see you next time. Ciao, guys.